Hi, and welcome to episode 42 of the Give Me a Crown Knitting, Spinning and Bits and Pieces podcast. My name's Niina, also known as Give Me a Crown on Instagram, Ravelry, Pinterest, and it's also the name of my Etsy shop. And today is Monday the 25th of July 2016. I've shifted back to Monday recordings for the foreseeable future, so hopefully that fits in with your schedules. I'd like to say a big hello to any new viewers out there and a big welcome back to returning viewers. This week I have a finished object. I've got some works in progress and a little bit of spinning chatter and probably a little bit of chatter at the end, but not too much. So we'll start with the finished object, and it is my Minnamurra shawl. So this is a pattern by Meg Gadsbey, who's a Sydney-based shawl designer, and it looks a bit like this. So this is a little bit damp still. I finished it yesterday afternoon and gave it a bit of a block, and it still needs a little bit of drying time, and it's huge. So this is a beautiful lace shawl. It has 3 different sections of lace, and it's wider than my wingspan, so I can't fit it onto camera. I think it's about 1.8 meters, or that would be about 6 foot wide, and it used under 1 skein of yarn. So I haven't actually done my measurements yet, but I definitely had at least 10 grams of yarn left. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I had a little bit of lace surgery going on, so I left a little marker in there just so that I could see where my error occurred, where I dropped some stitches. I dropped 2 stitches, but in order to fix those I had to unravel quite a few stitches on either side, and when you've got so many lace things going on with yarn overs and what have you, knitting surgery is a little bit complicated. So it actually, I think I dropped them about 4 rows up, and it took me about an hour to fix up the issue, but now you can't even see it in there. It looks exactly like it's meant to. Don't know if it's exactly correct, but it definitely looks like it's meant to, so that's the main thing. And the good thing about these plastic stitch marker things is that you can put them through the wash and it doesn't really matter. So I contemplated pinning out my picots when I was blocking the shawl, but I decided that that might be taking it just a little bit too far. So there are picots on there, but I haven't actually pin them out, so maybe next time I block it I'll do that. I knit this shawl with Circus Tonic Handmade's Ravelry sock in the House Pro colourway, so it's a slightly tonal grey. There's sort of some areas that are a little bit lighter, some that are a little bit darker, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. It just gives the yarn and the shawl a bit of life to have some variation on colour in there. What else? It feels good. Haven't really wrapped it around myself yet, and because I'm wearing a big chunky cardigan I might not be able to do too much of a good job, and I'm always bad at doing things backwards on camera, so it will be nice and drapey and wrappy when I'm done. And I will take some photos of this in the coming days, and I'll pop them up on Ravelry, and I'll put in sort of the final measurements and what have you, so check back in a few days on my Ravelry projects page for the details. But absolutely loved it. It was a fantastic knit. It was just one of those things where you have to pay attention at the start of each row just to sort of figure out what lace repeat you're doing. but it was incredibly enjoyable. It was something that my brain needed something to just sort of focus on that was pretty. And I like lace. I definitely like knitting lace. So I'm really happy to have a grey shawl. For those who have watched before, they know that my favourite colours are kind of browns and greys. So I've been wanting to have a grey shawl in my wardrobe for a little while, because I do have one grey shawl, but it's a bit of a failure. So it's a failure on the part of me, not on the design. So I knit this one a couple of years ago, and you'll see that it's a bit of a funny shape. So it's very narrow and very tall. It's very hard to show on camera, so I have a photo in my Ravelry projects page. So this is the Vilkka shawl, which is by Veera Välimäki, and I absolutely love this sort of shell edging that it has on it. This yarn is by Gadsbey from Atelier Yarn, and it's a beautiful singles yarn, beautiful greys, absolutely delight to knit with. But what happened was I decided to get creative with the pattern and switch things up. So there's a bit of a line somewhere around here where things sort of change, and I decided to add a few extra repeats before I changed, and it came out the wrong shape. So I have worn this occasionally, but nowhere near as much as I should, considering I love the colour and I love the yarn and I love the pattern. So it's been sitting in my wardrobe, not getting much wear, and I'm wondering whether or not to unravel a single. Considering I haven't worn it that much, so I think it's only had the one wash when it was blocked. I wonder if it would be okay for me to unravel it. It's been bothering me for a long time. I mean, I could wear it like that, but it's just a little bit short. I'll keep thinking about it, but if anyone has actually unraveled a singles knit up project before, I'd love to know if it worked out okay, whether you are able to salvage the yarn. I definitely want to knit this again and actually follow the pattern, and then I would have a beautiful shawl. So let me know whether or not I should unravel it. I also have a few works in progress. So I've done one little square on my sock yarn blanket. So I knit this square, and that is from some of the yarn that I dyed up recently. So a few episodes back I was showing some minis that I'd dyed and wound up, so that's one of them, and I'm really happy with how that looks. It's got some really amazing colours in there. As I was knitting along, I was just sort of getting stuck staring at some of the colours, wondering how on earth did I do those. So I think I'll be staring at them a little bit more and trying to figure out what colours are going along on either side to try to figure out how to actually recreate some of those blends. I have also been working on some vanilla socks, and last week I mentioned that I needed a DPN cozy, so I made one. So this is a little sheepy DPN cozy for 6-inch or 15cm knitting needles. This was a prototype one, so the actual ones in my shop are a fraction shorter. They're still nice and tall because I like them to be a bit taller so that you can get your needles in there easily and not have to sort of shove everything out of the way in order to snap it closed. And you can also hop, sort of thicker double pointed needles in there. So there are some of these, and there are also 20cm or 8-inch DPN cozies in my shop at the moment, and they have nice low postage worldwide, so it's only a couple of dollars, regardless of where you are in the world, because they're nice and flat and lightweight. So this is my sock. So I'm knitting this from Untitled Chapter yarn, and I haven't gotten very far with this, and part of that is because I was needing the sock to take photos of the DPN cozies or DPN holders for the shop, so I was trying not to get too far with it, because otherwise my photos would just basically be all sock and very little DPN holder. So that's as far as I've got. It was zooming by, but then I decided to focus on my shawl instead and get that one finished. I might just zoom away on this for a little while and then start on the second sock for any future photos for DPN holders. So that's sort of just a little project to work on when I don't have anything in particular that I feel like doing, so it's nice and simple stockinette. I haven't made any progress on my newborn vertebrae that I was showing, it's probably a month and a half ago now. My cousin is at 29 weeks, so I've got a little bit of time to still figure out some kind of baby knit, but I might just need to think of some other present in the meantime and then do some kind of baby knit for Christmas or something. So feeling like a bad cousin, but I'm just not, nothing in my stash is inspiring me, and none of the patterns that I'm bumping into are inspiring me at the moment, so we'll see. Something might just appear out of nowhere in a future episode. But I also haven't made any progress on my crochet doily, so it just seemed to be a week of shawl knitting and spinning. So last week I showed off the new flyer that I had got, and I ended up using this Eco Wood Oil wood wipe. So this is a citrus oil, and this is something that I was recommended when I got my hand carders, and they said use some citrus oil and rub it on the hand carders, and then do it now and then, and it'll keep them nice and happy. So this says that it's to maintain wooden kitchen items, and it's a blend of citrus and tongue nut oils. No idea what tongue nut is. And I got this at a hardware store, and my hand carders have loved it. I've put one sort of coat of it onto my flyer and onto my bobbins and my lazy Kate, and I should probably put another coat on because it just feels like it's all sort of seeped into the wood, and it could do with another coating. But I was itching to get using my flyer, so it took a fair bit of effort, and that might be why I haven't had that much progress on my knitting this week, because I think it was 2 evenings that I spent sort of tinkering around with the wheel and reading up on things. And the Ashford, New Zealand website has some really helpful PDFs about spinning wheels, spinning wheel maintenance, troubleshooting and what have you, so that was very helpful. I think that I still need to keep doing some adjustments. So the main things that I had to do was that I had to change the little plasticky bit on the maiden, so on the upright of the spinning wheel I had to change that over so that it would fit my larger bobbin, my large flyer. And then this is where my terminology doesn't sort of, I read the words but they don't necessarily stick. So on the spinning wheel it has the uprights, which are the maidens, and I had to shift those a little bit sideways in order to line up the whirls or the ratios on my flyer with the spinning wheel. So there are a couple of screws in there, in the mother of all, which has got the uprights on it. Anyway, screwed and shifted things, and considering the wheel is probably from the early 80s, some of the screws are not in the best condition, so there was a lot of very careful work, because I was worried that I would strip the screw heads. But I managed to get it shifted across and put a fair bit of oil all over the place to lubricate the spinning wheel and all the different parts, and after a bit of effort it started to spin okay. So I've been working with it and it seems to be purring along now. So my first little play is this bottom one. So that was while I was trying out sort of how things worked and trying out the different ratios and getting freaked out by how fast it was going, and sort of doing adjustments and just getting to the point where I felt like it was actually creating yarn rather than it sucking it up or not and making too much noise. So that was sort of my test. Not too sure what I'll do with that. I could just chain fly it just for fun. And this top one is the yarn that I've been spinning. So this is now 100 grams, and there's still a lot of space on that bobbin. So maybe I could fit 200 grams onto a bobbin. Maybe 150. But it's useful to know that 100 grams fits on there very comfortably. And I was just doing a short forward draw just so that I could use a technique that I'm familiar with while my new flyer was while I was getting used to my new flyer. I had it at a higher ratio than what my old flyer was, so it's just I figure it's better to only change one part of my spinning at a time. So using an old technique with a new machine made more sense. So that's how it's turned out. So this was one of my, this is the Kathy's Fibres fibre that I showed the other week. It's a fine merino in the colourway Heath, 20.7 micron, and it was quite easy to spin. I didn't have any major problems with it. There were a few little areas where the fibres were a little bit harder to draft than in others, and to be honest, I've had some fibres which have been 10 times worse and they've still turned out beautiful. So we were having a bit of a chat about it in the spinning thread in the Give Me a Crown Ravelry group, and I was theorising around whether it's that some of the dye stock that's been applied has been too warm when it's been added, or whether it's that the dye solution is more dye is added to that part of the fibre to saturate the colour, because it tends to happen, I think, on darker colours. But it'd be interesting to know from somebody who has been dyeing fibre whether or not whether there are certain things that they don't do in order to clump up the fibre. So as I said, it wasn't any kind of issue with this particular fibre. There were small clumps, but nothing that I couldn't work around, whereas I've had other fibres where I've basically given up on spinning them because I just couldn't draft it, and I've had to hand card at a later date when I've decided to be friends with the fibre again. What else? So yeah, so that one is I was trying to debate about whether or not to do 2 singles and then ply them together as a 2-ply, or whether to do a Navajo or chain ply. And I decided to go with the Navajo ply so that I could test out how much room on my bobbin there would be after 100 grams of fibre. So I figured that one out, and also just to practice my chain plying, because which way is it? The fibre up the top there, that way, there. That's the other braid from Kathy's Fibres, so for that one I definitely want to go for stripes, and I thought that I should get a little bit of practice in before I tackle that prettier braid. Not saying that this one isn't pretty, because it's definitely the blues and the browns have been singing to me as I've been working on them, and I think it will turn out really nice. So next week I should have a chain plied braid of fibre to show you. And that's the neighbour's dog barking, so sorry about that. I think, oh, the other thing. So I got this Lazy Kate because it said that it holds 3 bobbins. What I didn't think to check was that it would hold 3 jumbo bobbins. So I now have a Lazy Kate which holds 2 jumbo bobbins, and I'm guessing a standard bobbin might fit in there. Slight problem. I have a feeling that the tensioned Lazy Kate would have held all 3 jumbo bobbins, so my bad for not doing my research properly. The main thing is it definitely holds bobbins. I can figure out something. I can always transfer singles onto something else in order to be able to use the 3, or else I can spin onto my smaller bobbins and then ply onto a jumbo bobbin. So that's just a word of warning if you are looking at a jumbo flyer and jumbo bobbins, then check whether or not your Lazy Kate will actually hold the jumbo bobbins. So that was an interesting surprise to realise. I think that's it for all my works in progress and what have you. So just a little bit of chatter here at the end. I will have some new projects probably cast on this week, I would expect. I'm thinking about breaking into my hand spun Corrodale. I want to knit another shawl. I've been looking at cardigan patterns again and cardigan yarns, so I'm sure I'll have something interesting and new on the needles next week. Apart from that, there's been nothing too exciting to report. All's quiet in the village apart from crazy storms pushing trees over and what have you. But I have been enjoying discovering audiobooks. So with my recent discovery of the libraries in the local area, I realised that I could also look at their online sort of ebooks, and it looks like it's snowing outside, but it's hard to tell because there's a curtain. It must just be rain. But they're just kind of floating along. Anyway, sorry, getting distracted. I had been waiting for snow. It was meant to snow this morning and it didn't, so I was up early looking out the window and there was no snow. So but yes, audiobooks. So I've discovered that I can get audiobooks and ebooks, and I used to read a lot, and with the knitting sort of taking hold, I haven't been reading as much, and I've been reading very little actually, and I don't even know where my nearest proper bookshop is. In Sydney I used to have a handful of them within a short walking distance, and if I was bored I would go to the bookshop, have a look at what was there. There'd usually be something by one of my favourite authors and I would pick it up, and that would keep me occupied for a while. I had bookshops that would be open until 11 or 12 o'clock at night, so sometimes I'd be in a second-hand bookshop 10:30, just having a browse around, seeing what was there. and I miss that. I miss having bookshops and things. I wouldn't always buy something, but it was just something to go and do, something to not be sitting at home. And anyway, I am digressing, but so audiobooks, I had never really tried audiobooks before, and I've just been hearing a lot of podcasters talking about them, and I thought I should just give it a whirl, see how it feels. I downloaded my first one a couple of weeks ago, and I tried to listen to it in the car, and that didn't work very well because I was too focused on all the things around me. So I just sort of started listening to it while I was working, and sort of occasionally, just if I didn't feel like watching TV or what have you in the evening, then I would just net and listen to a book. So the first one I listened to was Peter Carey's Amnesia, and I really like Peter Carey as an author, but Amnesia just didn't grab me, and I think it was more the subject matter than the audio book, if that makes sense. I was worried that listening to a book wouldn't be the same as reading it, but yeah, I think just it was about computers and terrorism and wars, and it just didn't grip me. Yeah, I don't know. It sort of, I was looking forward to finishing it basically, and because I find that I can't start a book and not finish it. It's a bit like, it's very rare for me to do that. In the same way, it's fairly rare for me to start a knitting project and not finish it, except for my newborn vertebrae, it seems. So I also then borrowed a book by Helen Garner called The Spare Room, and that one, it was about cancer and emotions and friendships, and I think I enjoyed listening to that one more, but the book didn't grab me. So I'm not sure if this whole book's not grabbing me is I'm just picking the wrong books, or it's the format of having somebody reading to me. So I have to keep on experimenting. Maybe try some non-fiction perhaps. There are, within the sort of catalogue, there are some books by some of my absolute favourite authors, and I'm really hesitant to go and listen to those. They're the sorts of books that I want to read in my own time, hear in my own voice. I don't know. Do you ever feel like that? That you just kind of you want to take your time, maybe, in reading a book, whereas when somebody's reading it to you, you have to go at their pace. And yes, you can press the pause button on the app, but I don't know, somehow there are some books I think that I definitely couldn't listen to in audio format. So anyway, that's a little bit of ramble. I think it will be a non-fiction book next, just to sort of see if that helps. Interesting. Because I love podcasts. Podcasts are great. Even if they're video podcasts, I often will be listening to them more so than watching them, and then I'll just sort of take a look when something sounds interesting. But yep. So more random bookish sort of stuff coming up, and the rooster's crowing. And I'm starting to wonder if I hear these noises around me and I just sort of don't really pay attention until they get really loud. So if the rooster has been going off for ages, and I'm sorry about that. This morning I went to the post office and did my little post office run and made a little friend of a kitty cat, so I'll pop that little video in at the end here. It was a beautiful little cat, just had to stop and scratch it for a little while, even though it was cold and drizzly, but it's winter, so spring is around the corner, I'm sure. So I hope you're well. I hope you're seeing lots of sunshine if you're in the north of the world, and you're staying warm if you're in the south. I hope you're getting lots of knitting time, and I'll see you soon.